Yes, knowingly arriving in the UK without permission will become a new criminal offence under legislation published later. The Nationality and Borders Bill will also introduce longer maximum sentences for those entering the UK without a legal reason. The government hopes the overhaul of asylum rules will deter migrant channel crossings, but Labour said the blueprint would potentially break international law. The long-anticipated legislation will face detailed scrutiny from MPs and peers later this year. Let's speak with Chris Philp, the Home Office Minister. Chris Philp, good afternoon to you. Does this break international law? I can already see or hear lawyers sharpening their quills.
No, it certainly doesn't. We've designed this legislation to be fully compliant with the European Convention on Human Rights, the 1951 Refugee Convention, and the Trafficking Convention. So it fully complies with international obligations. What this does is it seeks to be fair to those people who are genuinely in need. For example, we're going to continue our resettlement program where we go to dangerous places, for example, around Syria, and bring people who the UNHCR recognise as refugees directly to the UK. We've helped 25,000 people that way over the last 6 years, more than any other country in Europe, and that will continue. But we also want to prevent and deter dangerous illegal immigration, for example, across the channel by small boat. And not only is it dangerous, people have drowned, it's illegal, and it's also unnecessary because France is a safe country.
Many of those people will say that they've arrived here regardless of whether they should have stopped in other countries. I know Priti Patel has made this point too. They're asylum seekers. They're desperate people. This will be the argument, of course, Minister, that they are desperate, they need help, and they've come to the UK for that help, and you're going to put them in jail.
Well, I mean, first of all, they've come through countries like Italy and Germany and Belgium, eventually to France. All of those are safe countries where people are perfectly able to claim asylum, and indeed they should do so, rather than making this very dangerous trip, often involving paid-for people smugglers. We want to help people who are the most in need. Most of the people crossing the channel are single young men in their 20s and 30s. The people that we help and want to help through the resettlement scheme are women and children and families, people who are the most vulnerable. I think that's the right thing to do. We should not be in any way encouraging or condoning these dangerous crossings. We should be doing everything we can to stop them.
And of course, the crossings have only really replaced what many of these people used to do, jumping in the backs of trucks or on the roofs of them, or legging it through the tunnel itself. As those avenues have been closed, of course, the boat crossings, the dinghy crossings have increased, and many on the other side of this argument argue that that's down to any civilised government to address, that we have a duty to share the burden of asylum seekers with other countries, and that's where some, I assume, will accuse you of breaking international law. How have you managed to usurp or circumnavigate those international agreements that were there previously?
Well, and just on the first point, I mean, the United Kingdom does stand ready to discharge its moral obligations. That's why our resettlement programme over the last 6 years has directly resettled 25,000 people, more than any other European country, directly from dangerous conflict zones, historically mostly in the region of Syria. We also, in terms of doing our bit, I think last year we had the 4th or 5th highest asylum intake of any European country of the 27 remaining EU member states plus the UK. We've got more unaccompanied asylum seeking children in the UK than any other European country. So any suggestion that the UK is not playing its full part is obviously completely inaccurate. You asked a point about the legality under the Refugee Convention.
Yeah.
And the Refugee Convention in Article 31 says very clearly that if someone comes, does not come directly from a place of danger, but instead comes from a safe place like France, where they could reasonably have claimed asylum, then we are entitled to treat them differently. And we think that's the right thing to do. Not only is it permitted by the Refugee Convention, it's the right thing to do because we're trying to deter people from making these really dangerous crossings. So whether it's a lorry or a boat, they shouldn't be doing it.
Okay, so the upshot of that is that if you arrived in Dover, Folkestone, that kind of area, on a dinghy, you would face immediate arrest.
Well, so illegal entry, the penalties for illegal entry are being tightened and stiffened. So the bill does that, and that'll become applicable from when it gets royal assent. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you turn up in those circumstances, having come from a safe country like France, where you could have claimed asylum, and having entered clandestinely, then we could declare the asylum claim here inadmissible and seek to return the person to another safe country somewhere else to have the asylum claim heard. It could be France, if France agree, which they don't currently, by the way, or it could be some other country somewhere else. That's an approach other places like Denmark are trying, and Denmark has a left-of-centre government. They're currently looking at doing this. Other countries like Australia have done it in the past. And again, it's designed to deter people from making this unnecessary dangerous.
So there is essentially you are banning asylum seeking in all its forms.
No, we're not banning asylum seeking. Because
so how do I get here if if I feel that it's a pretty grim deal living in Iran right now, and I want to come to a country that's safer, and I see the UK as safer? You're right, I have to travel through other countries. So when I get here, I would have committed an offence under this new bill.
Well, there are three ways, at least three ways I can think of, that someone who wants to come here and claim asylum or get protection could do so. The first is the resettlement programme that I've already mentioned, which is administered largely by the UNHCR, the UN Organisation for High Commission for Refugees. And as I said, 25,000 people over the last 6 years. Secondly, we've got refugee family reunion routes. So if someone is in the UK already, they're a refugee and they've got a close family member, for example, a child, a spouse, that kind of thing, then they can come here under that route. And 29,000 people have done that. Thirdly, you could come here directly. So if someone's gets an airplane from somewhere that is dangerous, like you mentioned, Iran, for example, and so there are plenty of flights from Tehran to London, then if they get a visa, they could do that. What we don't want to do is encourage people who are in a safe place.
Okay.
Already.
So it would be illegal. It would be illegal to show up in Dover in a dinghy with your family.
It'd be illegal to come into the UK without permission. Yeah, it's actually illegal.
So, and that would mean immediate arrest, one would assume, then at Dover, to go back to that point.
Well, it would be a criminal offence. It'd be obviously to the police and the Crown Prosecution Service to decide how to deal with that. But coming into the country without permission, unnecessarily, when you're in a safe place. A lot
of people, Minister, will be scratching their head thinking, OK, that all makes sense. We kind of agree with the sentiment here. But then you've got, thousands of people this year that have made that journey. Where would all of those people be now under this bill?
Well, the point is the deterrent point. So once this bill has passed, it contains a whole number of measures, not just the 2 or 3 that we've been talking about in the last few minutes. The point about this package is it will provide a deterrent. It will deter people from even trying in the first place. So the outcome of this is not going to be that, last year, 16,000 people that we know about entered the UK illegally, clandestinely. Right? The intention, and probably some more that we don't know about, the intention behind this bill is by providing a deterrent is to cut that number very, very dramatically, because people who are in safe countries shouldn't be doing that. And people that have no right to be in the UK should obviously leave, rather than having legal processes that drag out for years and years and years with repeat claims. But look, as I've said, where people are genuinely in need, whether it's the resettlement programme from Syria, whether it's refugee family reunion, or whether it's people that come here directly from a place of danger, we will stand by our obligations to look after them. This approach is fair to those who need and deserve protection, but firm where people are trying to abuse the system.
I'm bound to just ask you as well, Minister, while you're with us, you're part of this government. Big announcement yesterday from the Prime Minister. Face masks are to go. July the 19th, you're on that tube, chugging into Westminster for another hard day's work at the Home Office. Will you have your mask on?
You know what? I think certainly on the 19th, personally speaking, is a personal choice. And I think personally, I probably will, just because, well, first of all, I've got used to it. Secondly, I don't consider it to be a big imposition, to speaking just individually and personally. And thirdly, if it might just help other people and protect other people, I think it's something I would personally choose to do. So I think I probably will on the tube, yeah.
Chris Philp, thank you. Home Office Minister with us here on Talk Radio. There's the voice of one government minister in terms of, well, back to our big question on whether Johnson got it right. Well, Mr. Philp says, well, maybe, but I'd still wear the mask. Would you? He's a Home Office Minister. He's got used to it. Did anybody ever get used to wearing a mask? Man alive.